In this movie, we're going to look at how to do something totally cool with what we just saw with those with the postcards in space. Now, this is going to do something called a parallax tween. And you've seen this if you've watched those old documentaries where they take old pictures of people and they like pan them past and they look kind of 3D, but they look like old-fashioned 3D. It looks like the people in the front are in front of the picture and stuff. This is actually something that's done with objects and symbols that are placed inside of a movie clip and doing the very similar thing to what we just did with the postcards, but it's set up more carefully. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a landscape that looks like it's passing beside you. And if you think about this, if you look out like the window of a train or a car or something that's going along, you'll see that the things very close seem to be blurry and moving fast, or the things that are far away are moving much more slowly. Okay? And this can be done through a movie clip where things are set up in 3D. I have a new file here called Part 04. I'm going to open up my library that has my other resources in it. So there's this one. And we want to use sawtooth and tree. And you're going to see that, again, I'm using the 3D tool, which I should not be doing. I'm just going to drag these to the stage, which puts them into my library for this movie, because I don't really want them on the stage. Okay. If we look at this, you will see that sawtooth is actually quite long. Okay. The tree is actually quite simple and lame looking. What we're going to do is delete these from the stage and instead put them on the timeline in a movie clip. Okay, so we're going to insert a new movie clip, and I'm going to call this Landscape. Let's call it Landscape 3D. This is a movie clip, and these symbols that we just brought in are also movie clips. Okay, so we will put sawtooth on the stage. I'm going to zoom out here so that we can see everything. Again, I'm going to center this just because, especially with 3D, it tends to work better for the way my mind works to center it. Let's go ahead and name our layer. We'll call this one Sawtooth. I want to make a duplicate of this, actually, and so I'm just going to option drag this up. Nice thing about this is it gives it the layer name too, and I'm going to call this Sawtooth Back. This one is going to be further back in the background. So, of course, I want to put it on my stacking order like so. I'm going to hide that one. We're going to work on Sawtooth Back here. Let's make our frames bigger. What we're going to do with this is make it bigger. I'm going to scale this up. It's already quite big. But a nice new thing about Flash CC is that the canvas is infinite now, so that you can make things as big as you want here. We're going to scale this quite a bit. We're going to scale this up by 250%. Or thereabouts. 249. Also, we're going to make these darker. These are going to be my mountains that are going to be in the far background. Things in the far background tend to be a little darker sometimes, unless the sun's shining on them. But for us, we will make them look a little darker, so I'm just going to come into Color Effect, change the brightness. Oh, not that far. You know what, I'm going to change the brightness, and let's give them a tint as well. Let's give them a tint. And the tint is going to make it darker for me, because I'm going to tint it. Tint them black, but not that much. Okay, show this other layer, and there's what we have. Remember, these are actually quite big. Let's look at the size of that one. Wow, that's 4,500 pixels wide. Okay, what we're going to do here is push this back in space. I'm going to push this quite far back, and you're going to find that the position of this is going to change depending on our vanishing point. So in order to make things simpler to see to start with, I'm going to use my align panel and align these bottoms right there on the registration point. This may not be what I want eventually, but I'm going to start from some place that's kind of that I can remember. So let's push this back in Z space. We call this Z space, by the way. We're going to push it quite far back in Z space. Let's push it back 250. Or 252. Good enough. Now, let's push this one back in Z space, but let's push it back only to maybe 100. And you can see, I got a problem here. You know, I really would like those to kind of have their bottoms line up, or at least be a little closer to this. So I'm going to put this back at 0. My rule of thumb is if you don't want to be confused, don't start messing around with position after you've changed your 3D, your Z index. I mess around with position only when my Z index is at 0, and that's because maybe I'm old and I don't think in 3D very well like young people do, but I don't know why it is, but it bugs me to do it. And I think it will help you to understand what's going on here as well, because all this changes based on where the vanishing point is. Okay. Just have the sawtooths here. We're going to go ahead and put this on our stage just so that you can see what this is doing already. Here's our landscape 3D symbol. When I bring this out to the stage, as I move this, look at that. The thing that's farther back is moving more slowly than the thing that's close up. And you see, here's where that position starts to matter, because you see how they're changing in relationship to each other? And that's all because of the vanishing point. And if I were to actually come in here and change the vanishing point, which I actually plan to do, because I want to move it so that it's up, that will actually change the way that these change on me. Actually, I'm going to change it so it's down. Okay, that's our middle ground and our background. Let's go back into the symbol. And here we are going to add some trees. We're going to add 3 layers of trees. And what we're going to do, maybe in the real world, I might not do this as layers and not do it, select them all and give them all the same Z index. I'd probably mix it up a little bit more. But we're just going to do this quick for demo. And I'm going to call this one trees back. Trees mid. And of course, thinking opposite the way I do, I've made a mistake. Really, my foreground trees should be at the top layer so that they're in front of everything else. I'm just kind of dumb that way. Let's start with our trees background. Okay, here's our tree art symbol. We're going to maybe lock all the other layers. Let's do that. Remember, I'm just holding down Option or Alt and clicking on the one that I want to remain unlocked. This is going to be trees that are in the background. So I'm going to push these back in Z space. And I just want to make a few of these. Now that would be kind of, well, it wouldn't be lame, it would just be not very nature-like for them to be spaced kind of like that. So we're going to do something like that. Since these are going to be the background, we are going to come in here and give these a bit of a tint. Actually, we're not going to give these a tint. We're going to use brightness on this one. We're going to make them a little darker. Now we'll take these and let's leave these at z equals 0. Because instead what we'll do now is come in and bring our trees for the middle ground, and these we're going to bring forward. While I have these all selected, I probably should have used push those back. Now what we'll do with these is tint them maybe a little less. And here's where I put them on the layers so that I can just hit Command A and select them all and do our color effect. I keep saying tint. I don't mean tint. I mean brightness. I'm going to de-brightness them. Let's put them at 16 maybe. Actually, I want to go with the background ones and select all those and make them a little darker. And now we're going to do our foreground. Oh, I never changed their z-index, did I? We're going to bring these forward towards us. So we have them, let's select them all and manipulate our Z to come closer. Notice they're getting bigger. Okay. Now I could go in here and just mix it up a little bit if I wanted to. Make that one go back a bit, make this one come forward a bit. And this is what I would do if I wasn't demoing and if we hadn't been going for a long time. And I'd start mixing up so they're not all like on a flat plane. So let's go ahead to our front. And we're going to bring maybe not as many trees out to this one. And notice I am bringing them out from the library, or at least I'm bringing my first ones out from the library so that these I know are not manipulated in 3D at all. Boy, these are starting to look small compared to those middle ground ones, but not for long. Okay. We'll hit Command A to select all since I have all my other layers locked. It doesn't, it only selects those. I'm going to bring these, and I see now that, oh gee, I've put them too far apart if I'm going to bring them closer. So I took the Z change off. I'm going to position these. Oops, jumped into the symbol there. Maybe a little closer together. Again, hit select all and start bringing them forward. Like so. I'm going to do something else kind of interesting to these. I'm going to put a slight blur on these closer ones. So I've selected all, hide the library, and we're going to come to filters. Remember, we can use filters on movie clips. And we're going to just put a little bit of a blur, 4 pixels maybe. Yeah, we're going to do 4 pixels is enough because you know what? I've decided that I want just a couple more really close trees. I'm going to call these trees close. Notice what I'm not doing. I'm not changing any scales on these things. They're changing size because of their Z position. You can change scales, but it leads to madness. Until you get really experienced with it, I would say leave the scale alone. And eventually you may want to. But for now, it does cause craziness. Notice these I'm putting really quite close together. I'm just going to put, let's hide everybody else just so you can see what I'm doing here. Select all of these. We are going to bring these in really close. We're also going to turn up the brightness a little bit. And we're also going to put quite a strong blur filter on them. I say strong, you know, it's all a matter of you know, if we wanted to get really sneaky about this, another thing that we could do is, this is going to be a window with these things passing by us. We could actually not blur them in the X, but only, or not blur them in the Y, to get a slightly different blur effect here. Here you can see that it's not blurred so much up and down, and it's blurred side by side. That would be more evident if we had like lines and stuff in the artwork. Let's show everything and see what we've got. I can see maybe we'll have a problem there, but actually probably not. So now we have our landscape symbol. Let's look at this now. It's huge. I'm going to take this, and you see how much bigger it is than our stage. So we're actually going to have to scale this down a bit. But realize, this is a symbol. This is our symbol landscape 3D. What we're going to do is tween this. And we're going to tween it so that it moves across the stage from, how about this? How about from the, actually I'm going to scale it first. Duh. Okay. We're going to tween it from the point where this sawtooth there first meets the edge. I'm going to save this too. 3D tool is kind of a resource intensive tool and can sometimes crash flash on you, so be careful with it. Be sure to save things. Okay, so this is our starting. We're going to go far down the timeline, because I want this to be kind of actually, let's go even further down here. This is a lot harder to do on a small screen like this. Okay, let's go back to our beginning. We're going to create a motion tween on here. And let's go to the end. And for the end state, I'll center this so you can see the keyframe better. For the end state, I'm going to move this over so that I'm looking at the very far background, that lighter colored sawtooth, so that it's at the right side. To make this really good, I would probably want to make that sawtooth longer. But let's watch what we've got here. There's our foreground one. Now you could make this symbol really long, you know, if you had somebody like walking along or something like that. And maybe not quite so blurred with the foreground trees. Okay, so this is what's called parallax tweening, and it really takes advantage of these 3D spaced symbols, or these symbols spaced in 3D inside of a movie clip that then we're seeing in 3D. Because what we're seeing here is really very similar to when I was moving around the postcards in space, but now we're seeing it in a way that actually works to our advantage instead of being just kind of a neat trick. This used to be something that was very hard to set up. You could, how about this? I'm going to put a keyframe in here. I'm going to add a motion tween to this. Oops. Let's go down. You know what? This is still a motion tween because I'm forgetting that this, what kind of tween I had here. I'm going to move way down the timeline. Down to like 800. or thereabouts. I'm going to take this and move it back to the other side. So now, if I didn't confuse myself, I've got walk, walking along. I might slow it down or something. I could actually stop it. Like so. Let's say I did want it to stop and then go back. I'm going to have to make these bigger because I'm just fumble fingers here. Let's go back to where our tween changed direction. I want to remind you about this with the motion tweens. Because right now this is all one big tween that goes from one side to the other. But if I come in here and select this second keyframe that I made, and I'm holding down Command on Mac, Control on Windows to select a single frame, I'm going to come in here and choose Split Motion. And what that does is that splits the motion tween. So no longer are there two diamonds. Instead, there's a diamond and then a circle that's starting a new motion tween. Reason why I did that is so that now I can select this motion tween by double-clicking it, move it down like so. That does leave an empty spot here. So what I can do is I know that this thing is in the same position there as it is in here, so I could come to either one of these, copy the artwork, and paste in place here. And so now what I have is it moves that way, stands still, and we're going to have to put that ending keyframe in again. Why you no play? These are a little finicky, these tweens. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to go to the end and redo that keyframe. Somehow it didn't like what I did. So to clear one of these keyframes, you just come up to Clear Keyframe and choose All. And so now I'm going to move it to where I wanted it to be moved to, which is back. Oh no, it's the other way. The other way. Okay, so now we've added a space in the middle, and we're almost done. Your hero is walking along, or you're looking out at the landscape. Then we stop and talk for a minute, and go back. You can do lots and lots and lots of things with this.